Okay, so we just celebrated International Women's Day, and I came across this video uh, from a channel called Sav Says, titled International Women's Day, but no one knows what a woman is. So, looks like it's college students, and yeah, let's just get into it.
All right, y'all, it is International Women's Day 2023, so we are here at UT Austin to ask the ladies what it means to be a woman in the modern day, and also if they would feel comfortable sharing their spaces with trans women. Let's go find out. What is it like being a
Okay.
woman in modern day America for you?
There definitely is some like setbacks and challenges, especially like I'm queer, and so I have some like just problems with that, like in like a religious standpoint.
There's still a lot of struggles that women have to like go through just for I guess, the way that they were born, I guess, especially if you take into account like trans femme people and like stuff like that. So
I'm actually just working on a project right now. I'm an RTF major, and we actually just made a short film about women's experiences, like just existing in the world. It's called "You Should Smile More," and we actually did a whole bit about like how it is to just like exist around like kind of just the kind of entitlement of men and how they make people feel uncomfortable and just like in everyday situations and how that affects women in like their day-to-day lives.
What are some of those things that men do that make women feel uncomfortable?
Well, for example, in the film, like the title of the film is "You Should Smile More." Just these like kind of offhanded, sort of like backhanded compliments almost, where it's like it's inherently threatening and telling them like, you know, like you're only valuable because you're pretty, and like they kind of the tone that they use in sort of situations.
I actually
That girl didn't give one example, and she just stated that she did a whole documentary on it. I don't know which kind of men she's circling herself around, but whatever she just said there did not sound like any kind of example I would classify.
identify as non-binary, but I
Non-binary. Okay.
still identify as a mostly feminine person.
You're gender fluid. Talk to us about, I guess, the modern day version of what being a woman is.
I don't know. I mean, I'm only realized some more gender stuff about myself recently, like in the past few months or so, because before then I identified as a man most of my life, so I'm still figuring things out.
So what are your pronouns? Talk to us a little bit about your gender identity.
Wow. I'm impressed with her with such a straight face asking all these things. It reminds me of how Matt Walsh did it in his What is a Woman documentary. Just deadpan, get the question out. But asking somebody that, to me, would just make me kind of crack up a little bit.
Pronouns, I guess right now I'm kind of vague about because I'm not out to like literally like everyone in existence, just kind of certain social spheres. But I guess like any at this point.
Any gender? So
Yeah.
like they, them, she, her,
Yeah,
it, he,
whatever.
him.
Yeah.
You go with anything?
Yeah.
This guy agreed to being called an it. Wow. Okay. Any pronoun. Wow. Wild. Okay.
I go with anything.
So gender and sexuality is something that has been brought to the forefront a lot for Women's History Month,
Definitely.
International Women's Day. Some women saying that trans women shouldn't be platformed because they're really biological men, especially for Women's History Month. What is your viewpoint on that in the modern day?
I think trans women are women because biological gender is different, or sorry, biological sex is different from gender. So however you choose to present yourself, you are a woman. If you don't even have to have like any sort of gender affirmation surgery. I think
What? So all of a sudden your biological sex doesn't matter. It's just whatever you feel like is how you can present. And you don't even need to do gender affirming surgery. So literally me. I could just be, I'm a woman now, guys. And you all have to, in the comment section, use the proper pronouns, you know? Come on, this is such a wild world we're living in. What is going on? And these are all women that are saying this too. Like, these women are gonna get older and they're gonna realize how much damage they've done to their futures by allowing this kind of craziness to just spread.
If anyone wants to be a woman, they can. I think
If
just because a
anyone.
trans woman is a woman, and I do think we should platform that. They are women.
It's interesting with like biological men going into like becoming a biological woman, and people have an issue with that because that.
What? Oh my. And these are college students? Biological men cannot become biological women. That's not how it works. Holy smokes.
At the end of the day, they're a woman, you know, like you've become a woman, so now you are in that camp. So
You
I can
just
see why
become a
someone
woman.
might have like issues like, oh, that's not a real woman, but I think that's kind of them not being able to accept the fact that that person has made that choice to become a woman.
Do you guys view trans women and biological women the same?
Yes and no.
Yes and no. Yeah.
Yes and no. First, this man says that biological men can become biological women. Now she's asking, is there a difference between trans women and biological women? And now they're saying yes and no. Like,
You know, it's like yes, it's like a
not
yes
that that's
and
a
no.
trick question, but it's
Yeah.
like
A trick
it's a
question.
great question
It really
for
is a good
conversation.
Well, I mean, I think like the fact that like it's not just it's trans women and biological women kind of already inherently is saying they're different, you know.
yes, I think that's what everyone is trying to prove. That the distinction is there for a reason.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
So like if you know it's like do you view a woman as the same? Even if that question the answer would be no, because all women are different. You know, like Rihanna and Beyonce different. Same way, you know, like Caitlyn Jenner and like
What?
You think Beyonce and Caitlyn Jenner are similar? Like,
I
would
think
you
they're
put them on? Yeah, like.
yeah, they're both women.
In the place of
Oh my gosh. Uh, so because Beyonce and Rihanna are different, they're not the same women. Like they're still not. Oh my god, the mental gymnastics this guy is going through is crazy.
the arts, it's like there's really no room for judgment because like we do like animal work, like we'll crawl on the ground like dogs or like squirrels, and then that like being a squirrel you can like transition to like being like this like sort of crackhead where you have like this like tick and it's like
What?
I know I'm getting there but it's like you're laughing at that, but it's like we have no room to judge because then like some of the best actors out there doing like Robin Williams and Mrs. Doubtfire,
So would you say that a man
But Robin Williams was pretending to be a woman in Mrs. Doubtfire. He did not claim to be a woman. He did his best to present as a woman within that movie.
and
It's
a man transitioning to being a woman is the same as an actor pretending to be a squirrel?
see that's just a crazy ass question.
You
see,
That's exactly
what I'm
what
getting
you
at,
just
what I'm getting
said.
at is like not the embarrassment, the judgment on
Right.
other people of like, this is just that's what I do. Now you might not necessarily do squirrel work, but I'll do it because that furthers like my life and my career and everything. And if transitioning furthers somebody else's life in the way that they want to, then like that's just what they got to do.
Do you view biological women and trans women the same way?
Oh no. I mean, yeah, yes and no. I mean, I think they should be labeled the same, but I think people should acknowledge that trans women and cis women have different experiences.
I mean, I think if that's what they identify as, then today is a day for them.
Do you think that we should be focused in more on transgender women's voices now in the modern day society and, trying to uplift
I'm already gonna say it. All of these women are gonna say yes. Just looking at them.
them more than, let's say, other groups of women in the space? What are your thoughts?
Yes, in a way, because they do go through more.
And it's nice to get validated
Yeah.
in your identity. And
Nice to get validated.
Trans women are, oppressed and stuff. I think they deserve. I don't know what I'm
They
trying to
deserve
say.
to have a voice. They deserve
Yeah.
to have the right to identify the way that they see themselves as.
I think trans women of color should be uplifted the most just because they have the most oppression facing them.
And talk to me too a little bit about that. What are some of those oppressive things that they're
Yes.
facing?
Please tell me about these oppressions.
It could just be like small, everyday microaggressions, or even as far as someone going and assaulting them on the street.
And it's all intersectionality, so they deal with just more than one thing. They're a trans woman, they might be a person of color, they might be part of the LGBTQ plus community. A lot of things overlap, and it's hard to, a lot of things affect them. It's not just one thing.
I guess assigned female at birth.
Like, I don't think these women understand that you could still, if your goal is to uplift trans women or whatever, trans women of color, that doesn't mean you downplay your own. Like, you could still uplift women at the same time. And I think that's what you should be focusing on. Because these trans women, left, right, and center, are taking over a lot of what women have been fighting for, especially in terms of sports and safe spaces and all that kind of stuff. And it's just basically, women love to complain about the patriarchy. Do they not see how that's like the patriarchy infiltrating their spaces now, but men are just pretending to be women?
Person, you just generally have a lot more hardships just from like the way you were born. But I do think like trans femme people, it's kind of dangerous to be a trans femme person. It always has been. There's a lot of violence that
There's a lot of violence towards women.
like, specifically face.
I hate the way that the United States and law and policy are so focused on changing or just bothering the trans community, and I feel like that should be, it should obviously be a part of law in terms of giving them the freedom that they want, but other than that, I feel like that should not be
What freedoms do the
subject to
trans
talk
people
about
not
unless you
have?
are a part of the community or it has something to do with you, because you don't truly know how it feels to be trans. Unless you're supporting, then I feel like it should.
So she's saying unless you're a trans person, you can't have any voice in this situation. Which to me is just a stupid way to look at it. Like I don't need to know I don't need to be a veterinarian to know what a dog or a cat is.
Should not be talked about.
So I think one of the reasons why it is because, like, for women's sports, for example, right, we do have some people like Leah Thomas, who is a biological male, that went and swam with the women, obviously took first place. Leah Thomas, broader shoulders, was just bigger in general. So in terms of women's, sports, or even sometimes women's locker rooms, like young girls are being exposed to trans women who still have male genitalia. So these are kind of little kids that are seeing that. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
That's a good question. When it comes to the locker room, I feel like if the trans community, if they feel like they are the opposite sex, like a female or a male, then they should be able to go into the locker room or whatnot because they truly feel like they are female. So 9 times out of 10, I can't speak for everyone, but they're not trying to mess with the opposite sex if they feel like they are that sex.
And I agree with that point 100%. I wouldn't say that majority of trans people, I'm not here to paint them as predators or creep or whatever. Like, there are going to be trans people that take advantage of the system, as we can see with all this, like, prisoners that are trying to get into female prisons and all that stuff. As well as people in change rooms at, like, the Wee Spa, stuff like that we just had a case about a while ago. So obviously there are going to be people like that, but there's definitely people that just want to go there and use the space for the sake of using the space. But if that's the case, I don't think those would be the people that are exposing themselves and just, being all free willy-nilly, showing everything. So that's, I think, what she's trying to ask about, is those types of people.
Like if they're a female going into a female.
And again, you're going to have men who do that. You're going to have women who do that. It's not, again, just a trans situation.
Locker room, then they're not going to want to mess with the females because they now are a female. But
even if they still have a penis, though, like, do you think that, again, exposing a child to male genitalia just because that person feels female is a good thing for society?
Well, I feel like, you're not really you're not gonna expose your genitalia in a locker room. I know for me, you just get changed and stuff. So in terms of like exposing yourself in a locker room, I feel like that is not an issue. But if people are afraid that the trans person is gonna mess with the female in the locker room, that's why I'm saying I feel like it's not an issue either, because if they identify as female, then they're not gonna try to mess with these females.
Oh, that's funny.
Really,
All
anyone
those
can be
articles.
dangerous.
But do you think little kids should be seeing this type of thing?
I mean, well, kids shouldn't be seeing genitalia in general. I think.
Yeah. Don't
I mean,
dodge
if
the
a woman
question,
like
though.
goes into a bathroom and is like showing off their like genitals or whatever, that's just like a sexual predator. Like they just need to be in jail.
For example, in my gym, women will walk around and they'll get naked changing because, you know, we're all biologically the same there. So that's kind of the situation that
Makes sense.
some people are in. There are children there. But I guess, like I said, in the instance of it being a trans female, like, what are your thoughts on, I guess, children seeing that?
I mean, I don't know. I think it's
Think about it. Think about it.
that is interesting thing to think about. I just think like I don't know. It is like kind of a weird situation. I do think for the safety of like a lot of trans people, there should be a lot more gender like neutral space.
Why are you so concerned about the safety of the trans person when the question is about children being exposed?
Right. So more options would probably be the answer.
Yeah, I think so, because it really is like, especially if you're thinking of like a trans woman, if they go into like the men's locker room, they're like a target for like harassment and violence. But if they go into a women's like locker room, a lot of women are uncomfortable, and that's just like the reality of it.
Yeah, that's
See, I think that that's a good point, is that the trans women need to recognize that the women are uncomfortable in general with that, especially if they still have male genitalia. Now, her saying that trans women would be a target for harassment or violence in a men's change room, I personally don't think that would be really the case, depending on where you are, because most men don't care. You know, they could just think you have a fetish or you're into something different than them. But again, it's a change room. They're just there to get changed, have a shower, whatever, and leave. So who knows? If that is a big problem where trans women are getting attacked in men's change rooms, then yeah, have a third option. But I could see it being a lot easier for the trans woman to be in the men's change room than vice versa. It might just be the trans woman who doesn't want to be in the men's change room.
Bullshit. Trans women are women, just like I'm a woman. I'm a cisgender woman, but just as much as I'm a woman, so are trans women. So they deserve every right that I have.
This lady drank the Kool-Aid,
don't
man.
even care. I don't notice anything. Like, I don't see it as a problem. And
You
I
will.
think that
You
if they're
will when you get
comfortable,
older.
Like women's bathroom, they go to the women's bathroom.
Because they are women.
Yeah.
What would you say to the parents who think, like, oh, I don't want my daughter around a trans woman in a bathroom? Like, what are your thoughts on that type of mentality in the modern day?
I feel like they're not as educated as well. When parents usually say that, it's really coming from like an ignorant place because they're not understanding that they are women. I know they might have been born a male or whatever, but they are women. If they identify as a woman, they are a woman. And I get like they don't want like something bad to happen in the bathroom because their genitalia might not. Sex and gender are two different things, so their sex and gender might not match. But I think it's just ignorance. Yeah.
The fact that this girl can go on this little rant and talk about how parents don't understand and parents are ignorant, and it's just mind-blowing. Like I said, this girl's clearly drank all the Kool-Aid, but it's like, again, one, she's not a parent herself, so I can't fault her at too much, I guess. But at the same time, you got to think about what allowing all of this to happen now will do in the future. And if you ever do have a kid, what would happen? But hey, she might be one of these parents that at 2 years old tries to transition their kid. So who am I to say anything?
I agree with what she's saying. Yeah, I would absolutely be okay sharing a space with trans women, and the fact that parents think that is kind of awful.
I'm totally for uplifting trans women. I think trans women are women, and I think we have a lot more things to worry about than trans women coming into the bathroom.
I don't see really a problem.
I think honestly men are the problem in that point, because I don't think if there is a large majority of people being predatory in women's restrooms, it is men. It is not people who identify as female with male genitals.
I was just about to say, what do you think a trans woman is? That's a man. So if your complaint is with men being predatory, and right here there's a little headline, but at the same time, again, not all trans women are predatory, but they are still men. So if any predatory actions happen because of that, it's proving your point.
I definitely think trans women should be included in women's spaces. I mean,
course
they're
you
women,
do.
Obviously, so
Obviously.
they face a lot of the same issues that cis women do as well in terms of like misogyny.
Would you say that you would be equal to me then if you decided to be a woman? Then would we be the same?
Well, what do you mean? What do you mean by the same?
Like, if a man decided to identify as a woman, at that point, does he then become a woman? Like, what are your thoughts on how all that works?
I mean, well, it's complicated because this is like a social phenomenon, right? Because there's presenting as a woman, there's people interpreting you as a woman, there's also what you feel like internally, whether you feel like a woman or not. They're all kind of...
Or, hear me out, there's just being a woman. Because, I don't know, they were born a woman.
Intermingled and different. That's very complex. I think in terms of like identity, if they identify as a woman, then yeah, that's it. They're just a woman, right? So in terms of being
Carte blanche.
The same,
That's it.
I mean, like while they're still women, they
do you think that trans women face maybe more oppression or issues than regular women?
Yes, absolutely. And I think right now in the current climate, I would say yes, more oppression for sure.
They're the one group that seems to be getting away with everything and getting everything that they want, and women are losing everything to trans women, yet trans women are the most oppressed, it seems like, to this guy. Wow. Great job on her. I don't know if I would have been able to keep a straight face with a lot of those people, but as always, you guys let me know in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Whew.